Alberta's MLAs are headed back to work way later than first expected. The spring session of the legislature was scheduled to begin February 9th. It's now been bumped to start on March 8th. This amounts to a grand total of 38 sitting days because the MLAs get 3 weeks off during the spring session to be in their constituency offices. Want to know what sorts of things are going to cram into this super short session? Well, a throne speech and a budget, the implementation of the carbon tax, the results of the long-delayed royalty review, a mental health report, the occupational health and safety regulations surrounding the Farm Unionization Law Bill 6, the Municipal Government Act, and the Education Act. These are huge sweeping pieces of legislation that demand time for a lot of debate. But you and I know the NDP don't want debate now that they're in charge. Silencing debate is becoming the standard operating procedure for the NDP. They invoked closure, a parliamentary tool to limit and end debate on Bill 6 once people figured out what was really in that bill. The longer the time spent on debate, the more scrutiny the NDP get. Albertans should be very, very worried about how fast the NDP want to cram these new laws and regulations through. What are they trying to hide? And you know what? Way back in 2011, when Rachel Notley was sitting in opposition as the NDP House Leader and progressive conservative Alison Redford was the Premier, Rachel Notley said this of the very short fall session, and I quote, "The fact of the matter is we have a 40-year-old government that takes the Legislative Assembly for granted," end quote. Interesting how fast Rachel Notley turned into Alison Redford. The entitlement it took the PCs 4 decades to develop, Rachel Notley has achieved in under a year. She's like Turbo Redford. The NDP's Brian Mason has now said that Albertans can expect a total of 54 sitting days for all of 2016. Let's see how that shapes up with other provinces. Ontario, another province also in debt meltdown, will sit for 85 days. Quebec will sit for 82 because it takes a while to figure out how to spend all that extra equalization cash. BC will sit for 74 days, working on ways to blackmail pipeline companies probably. Saskatchewan will sit for 65 days because good governance and developing ways to encourage Alberta's beleaguered private sector to head a little bit east to do business doesn't happen overnight. Now, why aren't the NDP eager to head back to work to find ways to stem the massive job losses and discourage the mass evacuation of capital from Alberta's energy sector? This is the worst recession to hit Alberta in a generation since the darkest days of Pierre Trudeau's national energy program, and the NDP are deciding to work less to solve the problem. If anything constituted an emergency session in the legislature, the economic meltdown in Alberta should be it. One wonders if they really want to solve this problem at all. For TheRebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid.